Welcome to We Are Everyone, a video and podcast series powered by Pivotal Moments, and we focus on the intersection of mental wellness in the workforce. We bring together young professionals and mindful executive mentors to bridge the generational gap and bring to the surface conversations about the importance of mental wellness and how to overcome career tradition challenges. Mental wellness is paramount. Join us. I'm curious, how has being a musician has helped you develop your version of mental fitness?
Oh, Lord, it's such a challenge. I mean, and I've talked to some of my other friends about this who are also musicians. It really, I mean, being an artist is like, it's so hard on your mental health because it's just this constant, there's a lot of ups and downs. Like there's a lot of super high highs where you feel like you're like, I'm doing this, I'm on top of the world, you know? Like, and then there's a lot of like lows where you're just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm going. I'm broke. Like, you know, like there's a lot of that. There's a lot of ups and downs. And especially in the social media era where you're constantly trying to get people to like, look at me, pay attention to me, pay attention to me. Like, I'm shiny, I'm interesting, you know? Like, I have something important to say, I have something important to share. Like, it's hard. And especially as a, you know, as a normal human being just going through their life, like you can be like, yeah, I'm just gonna delete these apps for a little while. But as an artist, like you feel guilty. You feel like, oh, I can't really disconnect. You know, I have to post three reels a week, and I have to post at least one, you know, thing to my timeline every week. And it's like
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting. Yes, that's exactly the word I was about to say. It's exhausting. And you can really run yourself ragged with that. You know, I think one of the gifts I gave myself this year is that, you know, right when the pandemic was just looking like, you know, some sun was shining, like some light was coming over the horizon, you know, I was just like, you know, right in this moment, like for this next like 6 weeks, like I literally have nothing to promote. Like I have no reason to be on any of these apps. I have nothing to promote. You know, I was also going through a lot of family stuff and I just needed to disconnect. So I just gave myself that like month to 6 weeks period. I just deleted all the apps and I was just like, I'm not gonna indulge. And it was so nice. That was in June of this year.
Nice.
I just did it for the month and, you know, it really makes you refocus on like, I think sometimes, you know, you even question like, am I doing this because I really want to do it? Or am I doing this because it looks cool on Instagram? You know, like
It's true.
it's true. And so when you take away that option of I'm doing this to look interesting, then you really are forced to like get down to the things. I'm just doing this because I actually like it. Like I'm doing this because I want to do it, you know? And that's a new type of freedom. Now I'm back on all the apps, you know, I'm back on all the things and I'm trying to post more regularly and all that. But I think that, you know, it is helpful to have that reset. I just think as an artist, you know, last year in particular, I was doing a lot of kind of meditation around and also like just thinking about and reading about impermanence. And I think that it's important to have a practice around knowing like this is not permanent. For one, it helps you appreciate like the moment, like you be fully present in the moment because you know like this moment's not happening again. But I think also it keeps you from becoming too attached to things that don't last, you know, and it's everything doesn't last. And I think that that can be really depressing, you know, if you look at it a certain way, but it also makes things like really beautiful. And I think for me, just realizing that like my peace of mind doesn't have to be attached to all these external things. And that's really helpful. Like as an artist, like knowing that like whether I have a new project out to promote or not, like I'm still like an important, valuable human being, you know? And whether this post gets like 20 views or 20,000, like I still shared something I wanted to share. And I think that for me, like, I was reflecting on this last year, like trying to move away from expectations and really more to intention. Like, focus on your intentions, not on your expectations. Like, of course, in business, we set expectations, like, I want to grow this amount in this quarter or whatever, But as a human being, you can have those expectations, and it's great if you can reach them, and I think it's good to kind of detach judgment and just look at it with a non-critical eye. Like, okay, I have these goals. What can I do to reach these goals in terms of like numbers or, all those analytical things. But at the end of the day, you have to really like focus on like, what are my intentions and why I'm doing this? And it can't just be to grow.
Yeah, like but what is grow? I mean, no shade, but like what's like grow? Like, is it grow? It's a pendulum, okay? Sometimes, but you gotta just move in different directions sometimes. Growth, like if you just look at life as this, that's kind of boring, Like it's
it is. And that's why last year, like to take it to the meditation piece, last year I started doing, I started doing live guided meditations on Instagram. And this was totally new for me because this was something that I had done for friends, like, kind of like one-on-one or in small groups. I would do guided meditations or whatever, but it wasn't something that I was doing in a public way at all, And so I remember telling a friend, she's like, how are you doing? And I was like, this is really uncomfortable, like doing this new thing, but I'm really enjoying it because I can feel myself growing, And I think that like being aware of that kind of like discomfort that comes with growth can really make it feel special, So I think that helped, because I knew that like my intention was correct, like I had literally no expectations going into that process. And it ended up being a really beautiful thing. And it ended up being something that I was able to grow, in terms of reach, in terms of turning it into something I could make income off of. And that was not something that I went into it thinking about at all. It just happened to grow in that way. But I think that, just being comfortable with doing something new and doing it in a public way and kind of trying to get away from this idea of perfectionism, like just being okay at being new to something, but also acknowledging, when I'm doing something well, allowing myself to see like I'm doing good at this, but here are the areas that I feel like I can improve upon, like I don't know, it was just a good exercise for me. And it just made me, I think also I was reflecting on this a lot in 2020. As a independent artist, you often feel like you have to hustle. Like,
which is again exhausting. It's like, where's the mic going? Like, to your point, and just to reflect on something, because you said about the posting. Listen, as someone who I outside of having amazing conversations, I do a lot of social media management. And it's always for a purpose of getting a message across. I do a lot of business to business stuff, cyber, all the fun. But when it comes to creators and artists, it's like, if you flip it where you're putting out content for your own stage of what feels true to you, then that whole social media, what you should do, blah, 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 is out the door. You just have to flip the perception of what your purpose is here. If you're feeling it, takes it, because that's the type of, and I'll tell you something, we're in this mass world right now of so much noise, TikTok, reels, all that stuff. Eventually what we're seeing now is that your core audience, the Kardashian model is going to be now micro communities of to the meditation journey that you were talking about on the panel, where you have a following. It doesn't need to be millions, but if you have a loyal followers who are there, it's just a different way to look at, that social media world, if you will. So I just wanted to take that point, as you were discussing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that that's something that can grow, over time. And that's something I'm telling you in music too, is like really focus on your core fan base, and figuring out like, what are you offering them, But I think that you can't make it feel exploitive. You can't, at the end of the day, if you feel like you're giving more than you're receiving, you're going to be empty, you're going to be exhausted. And, before, like, you feel like you have to hustle, hustle, hustle hard all the time. And I think that in 2020, being forced to like slow down, made me reflect on, okay, I do music and I love it and it's cool, you know? I want this to be my career. But like, I'm also good at like these other things. And like these other things deserve my attention as well. And putting my energy into these other things is not going to make me a worse musician. It's going to make me better. And I think that that was important for me because, we're often taught like you have to, I mean, I've seen so many quotes just like you have to give your all to the music. You have to give your everything, but then like, okay, but what do you give to your, family? And when do you like take long walks in the park? And like when, like when do you sleep? Like, just like you can't throw balance out the window, and when you feed other parts of yourself, then you become a fuller human being. Like just become a fuller, you become more deeply rooted in your own consciousness. Like when you're not hyper focused on this one thing, and I feel like the pandemic, like in a lot of ways, made most people like fuller human beings. Like it was definitely traumatic, and there was a lot of loss and we're still going through it. It's not over, right? It's still happening. But, I think a lot of people just had some type of reset, or they just were forced to realize like what's important, and what was running them ragged.
No, I mean, if anything, the pandemic for me was a huge reset of like, all right, this is how I look at it. Now it's time to look inside myself. I mean, I was running at 1,000,000 mph on a hamster wheel, out every single night, networking. I don't even, for what, where am I going? Where am I going, Jenn? And then the pandemic hit and I was just like, now it's time to sit with myself. And I think now, at least after working with a spiritual guide, I'm more clear with myself than I've ever been, and have that self-compassion where, to your point is Beyonce is, God bless Beyonce, but Beyonce's time was very different of when Beyonce was up and coming as to now of the times we live in. And I'm not saying it was easier for Beyonce to become Beyonce. It's just of the time of where we are in life. And it's like the hamster wheel is not giving it your all is like not cute anymore, in my opinion. Balance is cute. Balance is, and when I say balance, it means like, I know another local artist, Kat Janice, who she's so much more beyond her music, but that's a huge part of her. But she's always said to me, she's like, Jenn, like, I love what I'm doing with my music so much, and I have my audience, but I'm not expecting to become that. Doesn't mean that she's demeaning herself as an artist. She's just, there's more to life and things that can bring you joy than trying to live, breathe, eat. Because then what happens is what you get to 45 years old and you're like, I can't move. And then you have a whole other life to live. You have your second half of your life to live. So it's just, to your point about that, like this, I think that the role here of music and meditation and finding that, and finding a whole other avenue of creating this community that you did with your meditation practices. I mean, that has to go to show something about yourself too. And this kind of, gift or purpose that you have on this earth is your voice can be used in a lot of different ways. It doesn't just have to be used through music.
Yeah, yeah. And to go back to what you were just saying, like that's something that has really been influential for me over the past couple years in particular is as you get older, like don't be afraid to redefine what success means to you, what it looks like for you in your life. Like what you thought success should be or should look like or should feel like at 22 is not necessarily what success is going to mean to you at 32, you know? And that's how it should be. You know, like success for you at 32, as boring as this may sound, might being able to go to sleep by 11 p.m. every night, you know?
Oh my gosh. I was
rested.
literally this morning. I'll tell you, I had to go out Tuesday night. This morning, I went to bed at like 9:45, 10, woke up. I felt so good. And I'm like, I don't want to go anywhere on the weekdays. I just want to sit, make dinner. My whole night consisted of making this great salad. You know, I'm a bourbon and wine girl. So I had a little bourbon, watched the newest episode of Insecure, and I was a happy girl. Like I was a happy girl. Like,
yes. Fulfillment through your own experience, you know. It doesn't have to be, it's not an external, you know, kind of like it's not the external gaze that's defining for you what fulfillment feels like in your life at this moment, you know. It's all you, and that's a beautiful thing. I think that's something you grow into the older you get to. I wanted to take it back to the spiritual piece that you touched on, because that's something that I definitely have felt more kind of like drawn to, connected to over the past year and a half in particular. Is I just did a lot of meditation in 2020. You know, I've always been a meditator, but something about meditating in 2020, I just got closer to the stillness, you know, and I started to just be able to hear a little better, you know, hear my intuition. And coming out of the pandemic, I just realized like I can't, like it used to be like I could balance, you know, this is what I want to do, this is what feels right, and this is what I might need to do. And coming out of the pandemic, like it's just so much more difficult for me to do anything that doesn't ring true spiritually, like that just doesn't align. Like everything has to feel in alignment now, or I just almost can't do it.
I completely agree.
I just have to be so much more purposeful with everything. Like if I don't feel like I'm walking my purpose when I'm doing this, it's just so much harder to do it. And you know, to the point where now like I've raised all my prices, you know, because if I'm going to do this thing that doesn't feel 100% in alignment, like you got to pay me. Like,
oh yeah, 100%. It's like, all right, like that's it. Like price going up. My stock's gone up in the past year and a half. You know, raise that's what you have to do, because the more you raise your prices, that's sooner that you can then really just do what you feel aligned with every day, all day. That's my goal. You know?
Exactly. Bigger paychecks, less work. That's success now.
It's called work smarter, not harder, you know, like that's, exactly. You know, but a lot of people say that, but some, you know, I'm like, you're doing too much. Like, you don't need to do it. You just don't need to do too much. Like you don't need to be in all those places. Stay in your lane. I was even a call today beforehand, and I was about to open my mouth saying, I can do that. You know what? Let me talk to your manager. I can do that. Kept my mouth shut. I don't want to do it. It's going to be stressful. I don't want to do it.
That's really true. One thing I've been proud of myself about is that I've been listening to my body more. Like if someone mentions something and my immediate response in my body is anxiety, like I just say no. Like someone offered me a gig, it paid well, but it was like last minute, you know? And the first thing I asked, she texted me about it. And I responded, I said, you know, what are all the details, da, 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 da. And then 5 minutes later, I just had to text her back. Like, honestly, I was just like, actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to pass. My immediate response is just anxiety. And so I can't take it on right now. And that's fine.
and I like when you're completely honest. I was battling going to this bridal shower one day, and I'm glad my friend ended up kicking me going, because it was very special, because it was like a smaller group, but I had anxiety. I had so much anxiety going into it. I really didn't want to. Then I had resentment from my friend for, even at the end of the day, for making me go. And And in my mind, like, I know there's some things that you kind of are obligated, socially obligated to do, and you kind of have to suck it up. But sometimes if I don't want to, I prefer to stay and be with myself a lot of the time. And that's okay.
Mhm.
And it's like, that's where that external eye is there, is like the people, whoever you surround yourself by, who just really knows you and respects you. And even for business, whoever those people who are going to offer you shows, like, you're going to get another gig probably from that person because they probably appreciate that you were honest with them, you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. And I
transparent.
mean, and that person was a friend, so I felt
Yeah.
comfortable just letting her, and she's a fellow singer, so I felt comfortable just letting her know, like, nah, this isn't feeling right, so I'm going to say no. But it's just getting more comfortable being able to say no and being able to say yes if you can pay me this, And I think that that's something I'm growing into more. And my mom, who I love my mom. She came up in the world of corporate law, and she's from Harlem. So she's just kind of hardcore, like she told me the other day, she was like, it's so important to know how to say no, like, and not regret it. Like, you just have to say no. I'm not doing that. And she was talking about this experience when she worked for this big communications company, and she was like in the upper tier echelon of like the general counsel. And they asked her to do this thing that was for like people who were at the next level up in the company, but they wanted her to do it because it was a thing around diversity, and she's a Black woman. So they really just wanted like fake representation. And she said no.
Good for
And
her.
she said her boss called her and was like, did you tell them you can't do this? And she said yes. And he was like, but why? And she was like, because this is for people who are, at this position. And, if you want to give me a promotion next year, I'll do it. But as of right now, I'm not doing it.
which I love, I mean, but that's like, because that's the whole thing, you have to. And it's kind of scary in a situation where you're working at a company, but it's like, you know
Yeah.
what? Like, it's all about value alignment. I love that. See, go moms. I have a strong mom who's
Yes.
she's a badass too. So,
Yes.
but now I'm sometimes schooling her. Like, I'm just like, mom, cause she's a business. So she owns her business. I was like, you need to get some confidence in yourself and ask for that, So
Yeah.
awesome. Well, I do want to, cause I mean, I could talk for hours, and I'll probably
I
break this
know.
podcast up into 2 parts so people can, really capitalize on just like the different aspects of our conversation. But I'm wondering, how I always like to ask our guests, how do you flex your mental fitness muscle? I know we did talk about music, meditation, but outside of, let's go to, like, some people say singing in the shower, some people say dancing around their room. So I'm just curious, how you
Mm.
flex yours.
That's a good question. I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is affirmations. I'm big on affirmations. Like, all of my meditations include affirmations. I just find them very grounding, like it's the energy that you want to not only invite into your space, but it's also the energy that you want to invite through yourself into your every moment of your day, and I just find that really powerful. So for me, affirmations are the first thing that come to mind. I mean, so much so, like, I've been listening to this one meditation pretty consistently for like the last month. And one of the affirmations is, I am mighty and unrestricted. And I just love that one. Like, I had to carry this really heavy, it wasn't even a box, it was a television set that I was given to my brother. I had to carry this television set by myself to the car. And like, it started slipping out of my hands. And I just started saying to myself, I am mighty and unrestricted. I am mighty and unrestricted. And I got that thing into the car.
I love that, because so affirmations, it's kind of, because sometimes then that's where I have this in my house, I have to go across, I call it a Japanese garden to get all my packages. And now,
Mm.
my significant other does it. But before, mighty Jenn, I had to carry a whole mini fridge. And then but at first, the anger or just like annoyance you feel and resentment, like, why did I
Yeah.
order this? Why did I even give this to my brother? Why am I carrying this? And then affirmation that like, I am mighty and unrestricted, and then it's in your car and it's done. It's just interesting how you can reframe a situation that's kind of sucky at that moment in time.
Yes, it is. It is. It is. I think reframing is a big, like, we're talking about reprogramming your mind. Like, I have this big thing where when it gets cold outside, I just get angry. Like, I'm just mad. I'm just so mad that it's cold and that the sky is gray. I'm just a summertime girl. I'm a summertime girl. I just love the easy breeziness of it. Like, I love throwing on a sundress and that's it, and walking outside in flip flops. That's just me. But so when it gets cold, I just have this like immediate feeling of like resentment that the weather's changing. And so I've been trying to work on that through the years of just like, because I dated this dude once and it didn't go well at all. But he did have this one gem for me once because it was like really cold outside and I was just mad. And he was just looked at me. He was like, but Cecily, like, I mean, it's going to be cold. Like that. And as silly as that sounds, like as simple as it is, it was so deep for me. I was like, damn, he's right. Like, it's just going to be cold. Like, I can't do anything about it. Like, why am I mad? Like, why am I, like, I'm bringing all this negative energy into my body, into my mind, for something I literally have zero control over. Like, I've yet to move to the Caribbean and, like, live in my beach house. So it's going to be cold.
Be cold. Like, it's going to be cold. I love that line. It's kind of like where my relationship with summer is that I get mosquito bites. So I think my relationship is go outside in the summer and like, and enjoy life, and you're gonna get bit. You're gonna get bit. Don't pay attention to it. Just like do the best that you can. Stop itching that thing. You're gonna get bit. And so you can prevent scarring.
Exactly. Yeah, just dealing it with what is like radical acceptance of the moment,
Yeah.
So that's something, is interesting as it is. Like the wintry weather is a big like practice of my challenge to my mental fitness of just like, how do I just have like radical acceptance of what this is, and also pamper my body in the process, like cold weather. So like cuddle more, wrap up in comfy blankets more, like take long baths, like take care of yourself so that you have like, so because the physical, the mental, the emotional are all tied into one. So it's like, what can I do to like make myself feel good, and also remind myself mentally, like, it's gonna be cold, girl. Like,
it's gonna be cold. Get a luscious blanket, go into, put on, I don't have a fireplace, but if it's like, make a little setting, put like the TV with the fire on it. Like, it's like, just, it's gonna be cold.
Yeah. Pull
I
your
love
winter
that
coat out of that box. I know you don't want to do it, but it's time.
It's time. It's time. Well, I love that. Well, as it is a chilly morning this morning, it's a chilly Friday over here in DC. I just want to thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure. I definitely got some nuggets of things I'm going to do after this. I'm very bad at reading books, but I do think I'm going to do The Mastery of Love. So I'm going to put that on my list since I did finish the 4 Agreements. So I think that's going to be a good one. And I just want to thank you so much for joining. Is there anything else you want to leave with the audience before we wrap up?
Well, I will say that the audiobook of Mastery of Love is also good. So if you're into audiobooks, you can also check it out that way. But anything I want to leave with the audience? Yeah, just, take a moment today to tell yourself that you're enough, like you're doing a great job, you're where you're supposed to be, all will be well. Just reassure yourself mentally, emotionally that like, you're exactly where you're supposed to be and all will be well.
Awesome. Well, that does it. I'm your host, Jenn Sherman. We have Cecily music. Yeah.
And I should say that if you do want to find my music, it's just under my first name, which is Cecily, Cecily. And you can find me on all the streaming platforms. And if you want to follow me on any of those socials that I have now reactivated, you can find me at Cecily Alexa, which is Cecily Alexa.
Awesome. Well, yes, definitely, definitely. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
We
you.
will hopefully catch you next time on, maybe we'll do a performance or some jazz. I will let you know well ahead of time so it won't give you anxiety, and we will go from there. But thank you so much. And we will, happy Friday, everyone. Hopefully you're listening to this on a Friday. Thanks. Thank you for tuning into another episode of We Are Everyone. You can subscribe to We Are Everyone on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and also be sure to visit www.pivotalmoments.org to learn more about the organization. And we also want to hear what mental wellness means to you. So you can follow us on social media, submit your video, and we will catch you next time. Thank you so much.